This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
The control system, the global control system, wants us to focus on a dot. This is what it does in science with its specializations. You focus on one dot. And if you focus on a dot without peripheral vision, then you don't see how the dots connect. So you're completely in the dark of the bigger picture. You only see one dot within it.
Mama didn't tell me that the world is unreal. Imaginary story, lies and unreal. Through the lies and the truth and fairy tale lies, don't have a prince of Wales. I never get told what is real and true. That's why I put truth out of the blue. Never really did. No one really cares what our heart it hurts. This world is nothing in that world to really exist. We nearly burns reality a twist. With a vision and to fear my hold that the world is a sport. So many things, the earth is the earth. When the lies get told in this world, no one really teases, no one really cares when our heart get hurt. The world is a lie. Nothing is real. This world is a lie. There is nothing I can feel. This world is a lie. There's nothing is real. This world is a lie. There is nothing I can feel. This world is a lie. Nothing is real. This world is a lie. There is nothing I can feel. This world is a lie. Nothing is real. This world is a lie. Nothing I can feel. This world is a lie. Nothing is real. This world is a lie. Nothing I can feel. Come on. This world is a lie. Nothing is real. This world is a lie. There is nothing I can feel. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
The control system, the global control system, wants us to focus on a dot. This is what it does in science with its specializations. You focus on one dot. And if you focus on a dot without peripheral vision, then you don't see how the dots connect. So you're completely in the dark of the bigger picture. You only see one dot within it.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Yes, and welcome to another episode of Connecting the Dots with my co-host Philip Druzhinen from Russia. And we have Mike. Okay, Mike, Stellium7. Very interested in and looking forward to this interview and to this meetup. Welcome, Michael, to Connecting the Dots with me and Philip.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining Mike. Yeah, Mike is from Spain right now, but he's from California, is what I've heard from him.
Originally, yeah. But I've been in Europe now for 22 years, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you like it over there?
Well, I kind of got, I got a family, and
Absolutely.
you end up staying in one place. So.
Nice. That's awesome.
But I've moved around a bit. Started in Italy as an exchange student back in the late 90s, and then moved to Sweden, where I was living for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And now I've been in Spain for 8 years. So.
Oh, wow.
You have some Scandinavian roots, right?
No, my partner is Scandinavian, and both of our kids were born there, so they're half Swedish. And
because your last name sounds like some.
Yeah, the last name is actually my stepfather's last name. So my original last name sounds totally different. So.
Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, man. Well, like I said, man, welcome to the show. I want to get into a lot of things. Stellium7, man. Look, man, I want to be honest with you, man. You have 4 videos now, and you're like one of my favorite, channels. And I think you have like just under 800 subscribers so far. I mean, that's
something like that, like 750 or something.
Yeah, excellent, man. And it's just like I was watching Glowbusters, and shout out to Bob, and he mentioned your name. And usually when Bob says something to go check out a channel, it's actually pretty good. So I checked it out, and I was like blown away because when I was saying, I woke up to the flat Earth, and I was also waking up to Titans at the same time. So it was like I was going through a whirlpool of information overload. And
how long ago was that?
This was 2 years ago. This was 2 years ago. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, okay. So and connecting the dots, everything makes sense. How they're mining all the iron. Where do you think you get all the iron from? And then all these colors in the rocks. I mean, just mind blowing. I mean, it's a preponderance of evidence.
Yeah.
And I heard you mention, I think it was on one of your first videos. You was like, with Medusa and they turn to stone. I was big into those, those type, what Thor movies and those, those kind of like, I'm still trying to find the there was I was watching as a kid. I don't remember the name of it. I don't know if it was a Hercules event, but it was an event where these gods, they were looking down through a dome, and they were like, it's closer, and they were like, talking about, and I was like, wow, and now it's more like, that's like more reality, because once you find out that this place is not, what they say it is, and it's supernatural, it's a building, a construct of some sort, intelligent design, it's mind blowing. It's like I always say, Harry Potter on crack on steroids.
Yeah, drugs no longer become necessary.
Yeah, man. So tell us, man. Truth
is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, the truth is stranger than fiction. That's one of my favorite lines.
Who said that? Who said that first?
I don't know, but there's a good YouTube channel.
I don't know if there is a channel, The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, but when I was waking up, I heard that. When I heard that a couple of years ago, and I was like, you know what, that's real, man. The truth is stranger than fiction because they made everything backward.
So I've come to the conclusion, just a rotten piece of fruit. So I'll end up dying slowly, rotting away. See, I come to be able to climb without a fall, to get out of this maze land and run. Please strike me thunder, let me get closer to the light. Please strike me thunder, so I can be free. So I've come to the conclusion I'm just one man amongst thousands. In this world I'll loathe them, sure they'll do fine without me. The chemicals in my head don't work as yours, 'cause every piece of life is a little bit of happiness, and every kind of love causes a little bit less regret. Please strike me thunder, let me get closer to the light. Let me go under the water till I can breathe. Let me go up. Let me go up.
Back then, like the trees and the animals and go ahead and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, giants, the evidence for giants appears to just be an avalanche right now. There's so much stuff coming out. And it appears that there were different sizes of giants. You know, there's some that are like 12 foot tall, some that are 15, some that are 50. And I don't know where the lines are drawn, but Titans is a whole other deal, because Titans, you're talking about beings that are really the size of mountains. And I know that Titans are mentioned in the Book of Enoch, and they actually give measurements in this book, and basically it works out to something that's about 1 mile tall.
Yeah.
And and actually in the movie in the 80s, the Clash of the Titans, I can't remember, the hero Perseus is fighting this giant creature at the end, and he needs the head of Medusa to turn it to stone, and he's cut off the head in another scene, and he holds it up, and the whole Titan turns to stone. But I always thought that was just mythology, fantastic stories, and now I don't know.
Mike, me and Phil talk about this all the time. It's turning out is more that we unravel history and find out more information, that we find out that everything they said that was myth is actually true, and everything they said true is actually a myth. They made everything backwards. You understand?
It does seem to be that way with a whole heck of a lot of things. So,
and that's why
hiding the truth in plain sight, and we get lies from our governments and our institutions, and we get the truth in our movies, but we think it's fake or fantasy or science fiction, or so.
Right. It's like, where did they get these ideas from? I mean, I knew from a long time, even before I woke up, I knew there was no such thing as an original thought. That always resonated when I learned that. That always resonated with me. It's always been here. Jolly Green Giant, giants, this, giant that, giant gas guzzlers. I mean, it's all been in our memories. It's all been in the energy, like water. Right. It's all it's here because this is a realm. Right. This is a realm, man. We live in an electromagnetic universe, and I tell people that's the reason why we have to shock you. So we can bring you back from the dead, because your electromagnetic field is completely off. You understand what I mean? So that's the reason for the salt in the water. The sun and moon. This place is special, man. And what you found let's go back a little bit, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you was inspired by a few people, Roger and what's that kid's name? Jay. I used to watch
Jay Dreamers.
Jay Dreamers. Shout out to him. I used to watch stuff all the time. What got you motivated into, and where is this thing at?
Well, yeah, initially, I don't know how I originally came across Roger's work, but, he's kind of got that, you never see him on cameras, but he's got that kind of crazy professor feel to it. And, you listen to him and at first you're thinking this guy sounds a little crazy. and then the more you listen to him, the more you're like, wait a minute, this kind of actually makes sense. And what he's, when he's looking at these different rocks, they very much look like biology, it doesn't look like geology. And I've seen, loads of things, whether it was, marble columns or, different things throughout my life. And I'm just like, how the heck did that form, but I never really gave it any thought, because we're told all these stories about layers of strata and, all the creatures die and they, are compressed under the ocean floor. And then it's all, pushed upward through tectonic activity and volcanoes and whatnot. So, you just accept it, carte blanche. But when he started talking, I was like, there's something about this that just kind of makes sense. And then, he's talking about the fossilization process and how that can go so quickly and that it's not millions of years or tens of thousands of years, but it can happen in a geological blink of an eye. And so then I came across Jay Dreamer's video. He did several, but one was called Petrified Titans. And it's got a picture of, a guy that's, his skin is off. So you're seeing all of his muscles, and it's in front of this famous place in, I don't know, is it Arizona, called the Wave, where you get this kind of, the brown and reddish rock that's just swirling, and it's a really beautiful place. And he starts talking about the Titans, and he goes through the mythology of the Titans. And then at one point in one of his videos, there were some pictures of different rock formations that looked a heck of a lot like elephants. And then he showed a picture of an island, and the island looked very much like an elephant lying down with the head turned, and even the trunk is extending out beyond it. And then after that, there was another rock that he showed that looked like an elephant. I mean, you could make out the skin and everything on this thing. So that was when I just said, wait a minute, because the town that I live in here in Spain has this giant mountain that I've been climbing for the last 8 years, and it's always looked like an elephant to me. And all of a sudden I started going, well, wait a minute, what if it doesn't just look like an elephant? What if it is an elephant? And it sounds like the craziest thing you can imagine. But there was this period of time after I saw a lot of the videos that Roger did where, it was almost a psychedelic experience walking around in nature, because I'm looking at all these different rocks going, holy moly, was that once part of a living being, and the more I looked at things, the more I'm like, now wait a minute, there's no way that formed the way, how do these channels get through the rock? As we're told that's like erosion from rain and water, but these are like perfectly circular, and they're curving in different ways, and I'm just like, so I started looking at the mountain with different eyes, and the more I did that, the more I started to find things. And initially I found a bunch of things that were just coincidences, the overall shape and things were kind of where they should be. And then I thought, okay, well, I've always had a gift for seeing faces and things. I mean, you can see my artwork behind me is very abstract, and if you give me something, knots in wood or something, I can always spot something there. And Jay Dreamer's mentioned that in his video. It's called pareidolia. It's when you're seeing something that's not actually there.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to jump in and ask. If you research this pareidolia anomaly, health anomaly, whatever you call it, is it a disease which is classified in official science?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I talk about suffering from pareidolia as if it was a disease, and doing my best doing my best not to, because I didn't want to look like a fool, and I didn't want to go around just trying to find things that fit my crazy theory. And with my educational background, I've done a lot of, scientific study, and so scientific method is important to me.
I mean, is there any practical cases that are described in psychiatry or whatever, which was, mentioned in scientific researches of 20th century about this pareidolia, where actually the people who are doing the same and comparing mountains with titans, animals and stuff like this, and were suffering from such a disease?
I don't know. I really don't. I do know that, you can look up at a cloud and see, anything you want to see. Oh, there's a rabbit, there's a dragon, there's, and
I mean, so
if you start going around telling people there's a rabbit up there, they're going to think you're crazy because it's a cloud that's moving around. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, society doesn't, get any weird stuff from this. They just, thinking of dreams and something equal to dreaming, right? So it's like dreaming and imagining stuff, not anything like a disease or something, right?
No. I mean, I suppose it could be considered some sort of a delusion, a psychological condition, if you take it too far and you're seeing stuff that's really not there and you're trying to convince everyone else that it is. And, you could probably get a diagnosis from a psychologist, and I'm sure they'd be happy to medicate you.
What about schizophrenia? It's pretty much the same. You see stuff that people...
Yeah, you hear voices, you see things. Yeah, so maybe I'm schizophrenic. Who knows?
No. I'm not saying you are, because I see also, when I watch the clouds too much, I see some faces, eyes. I see eyes. Sometimes I see faces.
I think
bearded men or women, pretty women, like in...
I think it's people who are more right-brained or more artistic, they're able to recognize patterns more easily than left-brain rational people, and sometimes those patterns don't exist. Other times they're making connections that other people have never, they're connecting dots, right?
Right, exactly. And what we're talking about right now is something totally different. Like, oh my gosh, that's a set of teeth. That's teeth. That's a bone. That's a nasal airway, man. The symmetry is all, it's like, you got to a point where, okay, I'm seeing stuff, but that's actually what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? Even though it's stone, I'm actually looking at this. It can't be that many coincidences. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's something I bring up over and over again in all 4 of my videos, is how many coincidences does it take before there's a pattern, before there's a possibility, before there's a probability, before it becomes just a fact and inevitability. And, I titled the first video "Conclusive Proof That Titans Existed," but that was a tagline. I wanted to attract interest, and I even joke about the title at the end with a hilarious picture of the mountain that somebody's photoshopped, and it's got the trunk spraying a bunch of people on the beach down below. It's a great picture of Javia, where I live. And so I wasn't trying to really assert that I've proven that they exist, but I think there's definitely a lot there to consider.
Well, one thing at a time. It's just amazing, because it was like, okay, I'm watching this, I know about it, but this is the first time I actually get a chance to meet someone or talk to someone that actually was in there, that actually, you know what I'm saying, Philip? That actually was in a cave and documented, and like was basically your journalist into this discovery. This is you've been there, not knowing what you was actually in. You said this always looked like an elephant. There's places that's not the only elephant too. There's other elephants in the world that's down there. This happens to be one I didn't know about, and it's mind blowing. Like, this
is the biggest I've seen. I mean, all the other rocks that I've, the rocks that look like elephants, and even this little island in Hawaii and something, they're a lot smaller. This one's quite a bit bigger. So I don't know if there are other elephants this size, but there's actually, people have said in the comments threads that elephants always travel in packs, and so if there's one, you're going to find more. And my friend Alex, he actually, across the way from his home, he can see another mountain. He sent me a picture. He's like, this one looks like an elephant too, you know. And it's funny because I had been looking at the same mountain from the other side, thinking that looks like an elephant. So that's like two different angles. And usually with pareidolia, you know, you need a specific angle and the shadows have to be just right. And that's one of the problems I have with so many of the people that are doing the research right now on the, you know, on Titans. They're presenting, you know, stuff from one angle, and they're treating it like it's a fact that it's a Titan. And it's like, okay, well, different time of day, you're going to have a different totally different look because of the shadows of the sun. If you are in a, you know, in a different position, it's going to look differently. So, you know, I think they're cool pictures, whether or not they're Titans. I enjoy them just for the aesthetic value. And it's like, wow, that really does look like a face. And there was a mountain in my hometown in California, in Ojai, that it was called Chief's Peak. And it looks like a chief, you know, an Indian laying on its back. So
Mike,
I always like that.
Mike, I gotta say, man, some of these things look very, very plausible, Philip.
Oh yeah, there were some, and I put some of the pictures in my first video. There were some that was just like, oh, clearly that's a person lying down. I mean, you got the eyes and the nose and the mouth and everything, and the shape of the body.
Right. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, right, Philip, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is when you die, right, your body decomposes, right?
Yeah.
And your body decomposes, and it goes through stages where that's you have the gases where you get big, and then next thing you know, then you start to shrink, you get smaller, and all your stuff runs out. Okay, right? Because like remember, over 70% of your body is like water, fluid. It leaks out. Okay, so if these things are that big and these were Titans, I mean, no matter what, they're going to leak out, or whatever, and they're going to die. And maybe it died that way, and it just fossilized over time. This doesn't look like this Titan was turned into actually stone. I mean, you have just overwhelming evidence of these things like on the beaches going like this, and literally real places where that.
I have a ton of questions, about it. I don't know how that fossilization process could happen. Was the mud? I mean, the top of the mountain is 753 meters. So does that mean the mud was above that? Because according to mud fossil theory and what Roger talks about, the reason the reason the flesh turns into fossil is because the surrounding earth or mud has got different elements in it, and those elements gradually work their way into the flesh, and the water and the gases and in the air, they work their way out. And so that replacement of materials, then when the mud is removed and it is in the open air, then it hardens. He claims that he fossilized a chicken breast or chicken wing in something like six months. And all you need is mud and a saltwater solution, and apparently a very, very, very slight electrical current, which I guess you get from the Earth's electromagnetic field. And that's what you need. And it's an anaerobic environment, so you don't get the breakdown that comes from the worms and the different things that would normally be eating away at the flesh, because there's no oxygen for them to thrive.
So I started seeing photographs like this and others. And it definitely sparked my imagination. This is Paul Bunyan with his buddy Blue, I believe, a big ox. The myth goes that the Grand Canyon was formed by him dragging his axe behind him. He used to go around North America cutting down gigantic trees with his axe. So maybe there's some truth to that tale.
I heard his things, but that just goes to show, as we look at history, as what me and Philip have uncovered, is that they're resetting this place, or whoever's resetting this place, or whatever set will be placed for numerous of time. Like, we're in a realm where we're actually seeing from the past events that happened on this realm long before we got here. Okay, so think about it. That would make sense. I don't think that thing was in mud. Okay, because you would see that's a lot of mud to remove. What's
a lot of mud to put there in the first place.
It's a flood. What's plausible, if this thing was big and there was a flood, right? And a lot of animals died, it wouldn't be no animals to eat this thing. So when the waters receded everything just came back, and that's just rotten. And they could just fossilize. They'll start decomposing and break into the ground. I mean, I don't know if you know, he also found something that was plausible, like you did. Was Roger? I think it was him that found a dragon in Morocco.
Yeah, the 900-mile long dragon.
Yes, right.
That's attacking a fish.
Right. Because it's just way too big, right? But he did his arguments for that was the same arguments that you're presenting, right? Do you understand the difference? Like, okay, yes, it's not a dragon. Okay, and if it was, I'm mind blown. Okay, I don't mind being wrong. Okay, it was 900 miles. I doubt it, but I'm wrong. But yours, okay, your findings is much more plausible. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd agree, but I mean, the more he goes through that dragon and the more you watch it, the more it makes sense. I mean,
he's just spinning ball, man. He still thinks that it's just
I mean, if he uses this mud fossilization, is there some mud on that dragon, first of all? And as we can see, there's no mud.
Isn't the whole Sahara? Okay.
I mean, we don't see the mud on the elephant also, right? So only like a little slight level of some dust, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the skin or something like this. Who knows? Actually, but I mean, the theory doesn't work in this elephant case, because that's why probably he doesn't answer you about this elephant. I don't know, because his theory is talking about something else. He's talking about conserving the body and preserving it from oxidizing. That's what fossilizing is about, actually.
There could have been a very advanced, petrification technology that might explain megalith. Also, is that they start with some other material and then they turn it to stone. We've got all of these myths that talk about petrification, things turning to stone, and the what do you call them? The trolls that turn to stone when the light comes out, and there's so many different possible explanations. The plasma event, we talked about that a little bit last time. This idea that if there's a switch of the magnetic poles and the toroidal field changes, if that's what it all is, then things float. There's a lot of people that are believing something like that. And if that happens, then all of the topsoil and everything could loosen from the earth, go into the air, because there's no electrostatic potential to hold it down anymore. And then all of a sudden it just all comes down. Last time we talked, I mentioned Göbekli Tepe, and that I was surprised because they date that thing to 12,500 years ago, but all the things are upright. So they say it's buried, and then the reason they're able to carbon date it is because it was buried by someone, and there's organic material there that they were able to carbon date. Who knows if it's true?
The level of mistake of this carbon dating is like 800 years. You know about that? 800 years is a very large scale, I think, in the carbon dating, because if we're talking about medievals or something like this, we can't trust the carbon dating.
Yeah, we can't trust carbon dating no matter what it is. I mean, these people, they misuse carbon dating so bad. It's a joke what they've done after knowing what we know now. It's nonsense. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Mike. How old do you really think? What's your guess? What's your best guess on how old or what time frame you think this thing is? I
don't know. When you start pondering the shape of the Earth, everything is up for grabs, because now you're back on more of like a biblical timeline. And I'm not a studier of the Bible, so I don't know what the biblical scholars say about the age of our world. But if Titans existed, then that offers some kind of validation to the Bible, because it's, what do they call it, an apocryphal text. It's an extra biblical text that the Bible actually makes mention of the Book of Enoch. So that gives the Book of Enoch some, at least from a dating perspective, some kind of credibility.
Well, the Old Testament, because here's the thing that a lot of people that I always tell people is, I actually kind of looked into this. And because we got to remember that people have these belief systems. I look at the Bible as a history book. So they say it's one of the oldest books that we have, okay? Well, come to find out, the Old Testament was never called, it was called the Book of Remembrance, okay? And if you look at the back of Malachi, you can look, it says even in the Bible, the name of the Old Testament was the Book of Remembrance. So what they did was they added the New Testament to it and called this thing a Bible, okay? King James Version. Who was King James, okay? Who gave us the Bible? So I'm not saying the Bible, I never talk bad about the Bible, such and such. It's been revised over 345 times, translated in numerous languages. People think the original text was Hebrew. Come to find out, it was Aramaic. So it's just a lot of things. So I look at it as a history book. Yes, there's a lot of history that's in it that's plausible. But and that's as far as I go. I don't. People who know me know I don't do religion. I respect people to believe what they want to believe. But my whole thing as waking up is getting out of religions, and getting out of the people that gave us the balls, the same people that gave us religions. And if you prove me wrong, that's what I tell people. Yeah,
I'm not qualified to talk about any of that. Any of it. I've never even read the Bible, so I can't.
Yeah, gotcha.
With any authority.
Let's go back to petrification. You mentioned as a technology. Is there possible any reference to this petrification in ancient history or some myth or Bible?
There may be. I was speaking with Rodrigo. I've just forgotten. Rodrigo Ferrara. I can't remember his last name now. But Rodrigo he's got a channel. He's done some really great stuff. Shout out to Rodrigo, by the way. He's done some really great stuff on, for example, Beyond the Curve, and he's a PhD in anthropology. Nice. And he's a real brilliant mind. And he saw my videos and thought they were very interesting, and spoke with a professor of his somebody with 40 years of tenure at a university who thought that what I was finding was very plausible, and that it coincided with a lot of the study that he had done about indigenous populations and something known as transformer rocks, which are rocks that were known by the indigenous peoples to have once been alive. Wow. And that they're talking about the idea that maybe my work offers some kind of scientific validity to these myths. So there are lots of,
They knew. Come on, you had to.
Or they, remembered.
Hey, oh wow, this is and as time. That's why they had to put us in schools. They had to indoctrinate us. They had to. Everything started in the 1800s, and that's why. So I don't know if you. I don't know if you are aware of the kind of research that me and Phil do. We don't just single it out to just one thing, but our main thing is Tartarian mudflood.
I've been following that a lot over the last year.
That is you can't find no graveyards that go past in the 1700s. So-called 1700s. Everything that they gave us starts in the 1800s, 1900s. And come to find out, right, that it's all nonsense.
There's so much fishy stuff. When it comes to the all of the pictures of the empty cities, all covered with mud, but you've got these massive buildings that are, how the hell did they build those things with mud, dirt roads and with no people, But to me, one of the biggest smoking guns of all was when. I can't remember if it was John Levy or UAP Channel. It was one of those two, I think. And they started going through the World's Fairs. And that was really when the penny dropped for me. It was like, there is no friggin' way that they built 200 buildings in Chicago out of wood, whitewashed them to make them look like marble in 2 years, only to burn them down the next year. When you look at those buildings, I lived in Rome for 2 years, and I lived literally like less than a 5-minute walk from St. Peter's Cathedral. So I saw that building up close and personal, inside and out, and from the top many times.
Right.
And the main building in Chicago for the Chicago World's Fair
Right.
is just as impressive as St. Peter's. And they say they made it out of wood. And I'm like, okay, well, even if they did make it out of wood, to make a structure that big,
Right.
so that it was safe enough that people could come and go, you would need such huge beams, and it would take
Exactly.
years and years and years.
Exactly.
And there is no way in hell you would burn the thing down after 5 months. I mean,
Exactly. And what about all the cities being burnt down around the same time, like all the fires across the whole?
Right. And almost every major city's got underground tunnels, and
Yes.
you've got the fires everywhere you go. And then when you look at the World's Fairs and you take them, especially the earliest ones, and you take them year by year, and then you do image searches for those, it's the same pattern being repeated over and over. I think it was just a big, it was a psyop. It was just a way of getting rid of Tartarian architecture. That's my theory.
Yes.
You
You know what, Mike? I live in a Tartarian city. Me and Philip, we're actually working on a movie right now about mud flood. And that's what I want to tell you is the smoking gun is the sub-level windows, all the mud. We have to excavate all of our history. It's not cultural layering. We know, just like they say, our ancients, they lived in caves, but they only built temples. And all this mud is from cultural layering, like these people didn't sweep or didn't clean up after themselves.
Well, there have been so many lies. I mean, we're told that the Egyptians had nothing to do with South America. The pyramids, it's just by chance that they happen to build the same way everywhere you go. Pyramids on every continent. Right. Star forts, why weren't star forts ever in our school books,
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm friends with Ultraduck, you know who he is? Ultraduck? Mike, shout out to him. He's on the Zirtist Discord, and he's been meticulously and tirelessly mapping these we lost Philip. Mapping these star forts now for quite a while, and he's mapped over 3,000 of them, and they're on every continent, and some of them are as big as cities. They're just
it's mind blowing.
Yeah, utterly mind blowing, and it's like they tell us those are bastion forts.
I'll tell you a secret: each and every city has a star fort of 2 or 3 star forts. So each and every city. Yeah.
And I mean, it looks like the star forts were there first, right? And then the city built up around it. So what time period are those from? And interestingly enough, I've done one of my next videos is going to be there's a star fort. Actually, I can screen share it and show it. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Do your thing.
What do I click? Where is it?
Right on the top, right on the left, there's this a green arrow. It says screen share.
There it is. Okay.
And then you hit that, you'll probably see desktop or something on your computer. There you go.
Yeah. So this is I did a trip. I've known about this for a while now, but I finally made it there about 10 days ago with a friend. And this is a star fort that. It's close to Benidorm in Spain. Hold on, this goes slower than I'm used to when I'm online. So, all right. So, I live on this point here. This is where Montgo is, right there. That's the elephant. And then over here. Let's see. Right here. There's a mountain range here that looks like it could also be a Titan. Still haven't figured out what it would be. But right here, where'd it go? Hold on a second, I gotta find it. There it is, right there. See that? You guys still there? Can you see this?
Yeah.
So that that star fort is at, let's see, it's at 820 meters altitude. Take a look over here.
It was pretty close to you, right?
Yeah, it's about an hour's drive, and it's absolutely gorgeous up there.
Can
so
you
that's
visit?
Benidorm.
Can you visit it?
Yeah. So that's my next video is a day at a star fort. Just I've taken video and I've gone in and all of this. But the interesting thing about these things, and this is another thing. This is at 821 meters altitude. Look at this. A lot of it is buried.
Yeah, like all the star forts we have in Poland and Czech Republic. All the
that's
from above.
Right, but are they at 2,500 feet altitude?
Yeah, the problem is that
what buries something that high up?
the problem is we always try to search for some undergrounds, and we find them in Poland, Czech. Have you found any tunnels or wells or something?
This one here has a deep well, and actually, I'll just do a little preview of what I'm going to be working on here.
A well is a nice sign of a mining. Probably was mining something.
All right, let's see. I took a ton of photos and video.
Because if they were mining, there's probably a water resource that also.
Yeah, take a look here. All right.
By ancient, so star forts were used also for water because there's always water in star fort.
So here you can see it. So this is an entry on one of the walls of the star fort that goes down into a big room that's very deep, and then that's an additional opening that goes even further in. And here, let's see, maybe the next picture will show it better. This is inside that room.
Looks like a technological facility.
Got a better. Oh, okay. So let's see. First, I'll show you this. All right. So you see this? This is about 1.5 feet, about a half a meter thick, and you can't see it in this picture, but this curves like it's really smooth, and you can tell that this continued over. This was one continuous, big, massive stone block that went from here all the way over like that, and on the inside it's curved edges. So this part here has broken off, and then look at this.
It's that Tartarian brick we were talking about, Philip.
That's not brick. It's solid stone.
No, I was talking about the inside of that. Before that, the other photo you were showing, that the inside of that Tartarian brick.
Right.
Wow.
This is about an 8-inch wide plumbing tube that went right through that massive stone block. So I mean, there was some serious plumbing at that thing. It's
can we like microscope see what the stone is made of? See if it's natural or is it artificial? I mean, if it's a concrete.
Well, I know that the star fort itself, the main star fort, I recognize the stone because I see it all the time. It's limestone. So I heard one of the people, it was kind of a creepy thing when I first heard it, and then I was like, oh wait, that makes sense. Somebody who's been studying the star forts was theorizing that they were made out of bone. Like all the star forts, all, the thousands of them around the world made out of bone, which is like, okay, well, whose bones did they make them out of, But when I was up there and I realized that, well, they're made out of limestone. So limestone, according to mainstream geology, is bone. And this is all limestone here. So and then I don't know what they're using for the grout or the mortar or whatever you call it.
I mean, where you get so many bones if it's not a creature that you talked about?
Well, Titan bones.
Yeah. If it's nearby.
Right. This is second generation. This looks like crap compared to the original structure. Like when you look at this is one of the corners of the star fort up close. So this gray bone here, or this gray this gray rock, this is limestone. And mainstream geology says that limestone is made from compressed mollusks and shells and skeletons of different sea creatures. So those get compressed over millions of years of time, and then they get pushed upward, and that's how we supposedly get our different layers of limestone. But
I mean, can we actually see it on the microscope and make a photo of it? But it's a sea creatures, like they say.
I spent a lot of time looking at limestone here, and I'm still screen sharing.
Yeah.
Is that done? Oh yeah. I've spent a lot of time looking at limestone around here, and it's either really smooth with no hint of any fossils in it whatsoever. Although there will be like different lines, grooves, and sometimes you get these white lines through it that looks a heck of a lot like fascia. That layer of fascia that's separating two different tissues. Yeah. Just like when you're, if you're cutting meat and you get that white layer between the red.
It's like marbling.
Yeah, marbling. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's
right.
Either fat or fascia.
and that was what was so mind blowing when I was watching Wise Up and watching, because he was exposing the archaeology fraud. And he was talking about these things. He talked about giants and his star forts. And Roger, he was basically breaking down like the biology of these things. Like I said, I don't agree with everything with Roger, but I like him because he's like, yo, I don't care what you say. This is from something that was living, and he's right. You know what I mean?
Very confident.
That's a heart. That's a thumb. That's a toe, you know what I mean? It's like, so that's blood.
I mean, sometimes not just Roger, but other people, they're looking at stuff and they're like, this is I'm like, okay, maybe, I don't know, and I've studied a lot of anatomy. I don't know if it's what you're claiming, but some things, really, really look like what he says they do. And he knows a lot about the chemistry. I had very low level chemistry when I was going to school,
right.
So I can't even begin to look at it from the chemistry side of things. And I'm not even an amateur geologist, so I can't look at the mainstream geological approach either. So I suppose I was perfectly suited to do what I did because I had the anatomy background, and I could recognize different tissues because I've studied tissues both under a microscope and macro level.
Oh, so that's why this clicked so much to you. You're like you can dots, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, something's up here.
Yeah.
What about? You said the science background. What is supposed to be scientific in medical science? Do you have to have this repeatable factor? What else do you have to have?
Well, in the education that I did, we studied the scientific method a lot. I had to do a final research paper that was, in my case, it was a literature study. Some people did actual experiments, but the whole time, you're looking at you're trying not to have pareidolia, and that was the thing is I thought, okay, if this is really a Titan, I don't want to go looking for things and then just try and fit them into the box of it's a Titan and that this piece fits because of that. So I approached it differently. When I went up to the eye for the first time after I'd gotten wind of these ideas, I had already been up to the eye several times, so I remembered what it was like up there. I remembered that there were extra caves that were going back that were smaller, and I remembered, different features about the cave. But I was concerned, about just fitting things into what I wanted to see. So instead, I got out the anatomy. I started looking at things. I got some 3D anatomy apps to look at the eye sockets and look at the positions of the sutures where the bones meet. In the eye socket of all the vertebrates, there's 7 different bones that meet to create the socket. And so those, if you look at the vertebrates, pretty much across the board, those bones meet more or less in the same places, even though the heads are very different, right? So you get, with the vertebrates, you get big changes in the overall shape of the being, but the bones are very, very, very similar. And so I went in, having studied the anatomy beforehand, and going back to the cave to do reconnaissance and to see, like, will I find any of the stuff that I'm expecting to find?
Okay.
And that was when, you know, I started getting goosebumps, because I didn't just find a couple of things. I found a bunch of very, very specific things. You know, in the eye alone, there were 12 different coincidences, and surprisingly enough, of the 4 videos, that's the one that's gotten the fewest views, and I thought that was the one that was going to be the most fun for people.
Well put together, Mike. It was well put together. I like how you did. You even brought the eye up so people could see actually what you're seeing. You did a great job, man. And I think more people, Philip. I think Philip. When more people find about who he is and you know and what and check out his work, they're going to really, really like you. So,
I mean, if there is difference in medical science to claim the experiment to be successful as a scientific research, I mean, what are the factors that they accord and account in this scientific methods? What else?
Well,
repeatable is not comparable with one eye, right? You're supposed to have another eye to say it's repeatable, right? But you found a bunch of coincidences, of course, but they are coincidences also in not repeatable way. So what else they can say in argument to what you found?
Right. Well, as far as the eye goes, I have a reason for not having found a second eye, which is that the whole mountain there, according to mainstream geology, this isn't my theory, has collapsed exactly where that side of the head would be. So the eye and the ear would not be intact there. So, but you're right. So that means that it's not repeatable. It would be repeatable if you found other mountains that exhibited similar features. But you know, I think Montgo is
what
the
do you
most
think
unique I found.
The intentional act to actually, they couldn't blow the whole mountain, so they figured you collapse one side, so the science won't find the tracks on the other side.
I wouldn't be surprised, but you know, I've never seen any really old pictures of Montgo. I don't know. I have no idea when that collapsed.
Right, or it could just kind of collapse on its own, like we talked about before, how bodies do, right? If there was floods back then, right?
And if there was going to be a collapse,
right? So you get a big body like that, big body like that, and this place is flooded out or whatever, and all the water goes, and the head collapses, everything's going to collapse.
It would have collapsed there, because when you look at the elephant skull, the breathing passage of an elephant is huge. It's like, you know, it would be like half of my forehead. So that would obviously be the weakest point of the whole mountain, because there'd be a big cave there. So
you also went into the ear canal. Tell us about
I
mean, what was that?
Yeah, that was the biggest mind blow of all, definitely. Because the thing is, I had already looked at the mountain, you know, on Google Earth from all kinds of angles, and you know, so you got the overall shape. Then you've got cutouts right where you would expect, you know, where the head ends and the neck ends on both sides. You've got this shape that looks a lot like a detached ear. That there's a half moon kind of a shape there, right exactly where the ear should be based on what the skull looks like. And so I'm thinking, well, if there's an eye, because it sure seems like that's an eye, because I've got sutures where they should be. I've got optic nerve caves. I've got, you know, we even dug in. We didn't dig in. We crawled in on our stomach, and went through this little passage that, you know, if you were a big person, you wouldn't make it. And it opens up into this big cave, which I have in the second video. And that's exactly where you would expect the sinus passage to be. And when you look at the anatomy, it's there. I had one commenter who said that she felt that it was a bit disingenuous that I had used human skull when I was demonstrating the anatomy. I do bring in the elephant skull later when I'm showing the crevices and I have an elephant skull side by side with the with the cave. And so but the thing is, I tried to get my hands on an elephant skull because they're 29 bones in the head, and they all fit together, and so you can find 3D anatomy where you can separate those bones and zoom in, and like I did in the videos. But you can't find anything like that for an elephant. So I spoke with one of my patients who's a veterinarian and was talking to him about it, and he's like, well, you could contact the veterinary school in Alicante. And he talked to somebody, and they started asking questions because it was a really weird request. Do you have an elephant skull? And the thing is, a lot of times when you look at the different pictures and the fossils of the fossilized skulls that are online, sometimes the sutures are very faint anyway. So there's just because you get an elephant skull in front of you doesn't mean you're going to be able to do something like what I did in the videos with the human skull. Right. So anyway, so I wrote back and I said it wasn't my intention to be disingenuous, but that was all I had at my disposal. So then I started thinking, well, if there's an eye, then maybe there's an ear, because that side of the mountain is still intact. And so let me just share my screen because it's
sure,
more fun to share it. So there it is. Okay. So I mean, just from here, you can already see, like, if you imagine that this is an elephant head, that's where the ear would have been attached, right? And there's like this shape here that's it's right where it should be. So I wanted to hike up there because I was thinking, well, I might be able to find a cave, and there's this trail that I could see here. And so I was searching for the name of this canyon because I was hoping I could figure out which of the roads was best to go up and maybe even find a trailhead. And when I did that, I found the name of this barranca was called Barranca del Migdia, which is or Mijdia, which is midday. And when I did that search, up came another link that said Cova del Migdia, and Cova means cave, and I knew that, and I went, wait a minute, there's a cave there, and I started looking into it, and not only was there a cave there, but the cave is right there.
Wow!
Right where you would expect the ear opening, and so that was a mind blow just finding that out. But the website that was I was getting this information from, they were showing that this cave had been excavated by archaeologists, and it turns out that this was the most thoroughly excavated cave in all of Europe. And they had brought a team of archaeologists in there because they found the remains of human beings, they found cave paintings. So they brought in a team, and they didn't just go through it like archaeologists normally would. They brought in 3D mapping technology. So they mapped this thing and several people have said that in the comment threads that that's why they went in there, and so who knows, maybe they knew.
Like share some of my recent experience with some of those who trying to criticize, and people like saying, so you should be proving, not we, you are coming up with these new ideas, you should be proving, not us. But every time we try to prove something, we get stuck on the buildings which are prohibited to excavate, or research which are already captured by some organizations, even state organizations. Right. Cannot even enter there. And
or protected by that organization that protects all the historical monuments? UNESCO. Protected by UNESCO, exactly.
Yeah, so it's every time you get to this point, if you excavate something accidentally or find something accidentally, you're already under the felony, and that felony says that you cannot hide it from the state. So this is not this is not correct to say like you guys go and research. I mean, you try to research it and you find out it's the most excavated cave in the world, and it has something that is prohibited to research actually, because they got all those paintings, so you cannot like go there just like this and do something, because the paintings are important.
Well, the nice thing is they did all the work for me, and they did it far better than I ever would have done for myself, because they did a fly through, so you had a regular camera zooming through, and I got that footage from a video online, and then they had the 3D mapping. They had all of the cave paintings, and ironically, some of the designs looked like elephants, And then others looked to me like major flooding, like it looked like just the big massive rain coming from above. Maybe that's not what it was, but
a bunch of stories about those guys who were picturing their kids hanging around there in the 19th century in some caves, and after that you find out that that was in France probably. They found out that there was the oldest European mural painting. And it's like,
Spain has. There's a couple of archaeological sites in Spain and in France that have, the oldest Neolithic paintings in the world, which are the first examples of human artwork according to, mainstream archaeology. The first example. So we're talking 35,000 years ago.
But why were they discovered only in 19th century? Ask yourself.
So but the whole when you start to look into the
science,
the discipline of the cave painting, I don't even know what the division of archaeology that is, but it's nepotism and backslapping, and they have a tight lock on what gets published or what doesn't, as does all of academia. So.
I mean, it had nothing as a scientific, interest before 19th century. Then it suddenly became out because people started to make money on tourism. When the borders get open, when they have all those airplanes and trains and ships that could be transferring tourists, and they wanted to attract the tourists, and that's when they started opening those caves. Like, maybe already they were prepared in the last centuries or maybe several decades before, and painting those paintings, which are conspiracy theories talking about it. So, I mean, I'm not buying any of this version, but I think it has a good reason to be accounting like this, because, when you find something like it's worth any of research, you find out that it is prohibited by somebody or already researched by somebody, and you say, oh, what can I do, actually?
Well, even if you did everything right with something like this Titan thing, I'm not holding my breath that I'm going to become a professor of Titanology anytime in the near future. It's the thing is, if you look at what's happened with Roger, he's gathered tons of evidence, all kinds of different tissue samples of different sorts that totally, match what he's saying they are.
Hold on, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's what I was going to ask you. Have you done any tests yourself? Like, say, okay, let me get have you took any samples yourself and sent them off, or no, you didn't want to get that because it costs a lot of money?
No. Yeah, well, first of all, I need to find out what's the procedure for getting the samples in a clean fashion. How do you extract it without contaminating it? I don't know how to do that. Then I've got to. Then I imagine if you want to really you want to be able to say this is proof. Right. Then you've got to have some kind of thing where you actually film yourself collecting the sample in a clean fashion, putting it into some kind of a sealed bag that has its serial number on it, and then that's handed to somebody with DHL, and then that goes to the lab. Then you have to have a lab that's willing to do this, that is reputable.
Two separate labs, right?
Right, so you got to have multiple labs. I asked Roger how much it costs, and he said a lot. He didn't give me a dollar figure, so I don't know if we're talking hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know. But I mean, people are doing DNA tests all the time for human DNA, so it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to try and extract some DNA from Earth. I don't know. But here's the point: is that he's he's been for years and years sending his stuff to Harvard, to Yale, trying to get them to recognize his work and what he's discovered, that the rocks were once alive and that it's provable. But the problem is that it, and I said this in my 4th video, it totally shatters the mainstream paradigm of geology. And it changes everything that we know about how the rocks are formed, how old they are, when they came about, what is going on here, So they're not exactly going to go, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Yeah, let's destroy our entire geology department by taking a look at this stuff.
Because you know what it proves, Philip? It proves that they lied about everything. They lied about that too. They lied about, not only that, they lied about geology. They covered it up. And they go, it's a bunch of nonsense. Oh, I thought you said this. Oh, millions of years this, millions of years this. It's all nonsense.
I tell
Roger,
you, they did the same. They all this, structurized and bureaucracy in science, all those acts and documents that you have to obey to do something proper way to to actually prove to in scientific methods something. You have to do some some dancing around and playing. So they're supposed to like you anyway. And they supposed to like what you do. They supposed to fund you because it costs money, as you can see. Like to do a simple test, it costs money, and it costs the professional time. It costs what are you gonna do? What are you gonna live on while doing this? Some people lost their lives doing this useless research, as it was thought at that time. When they died, somebody gave a little time on researching what they were researching. They found out it was scientific breakthrough, but nobody gave a shit when those people were alive. And there's many stories about this when you're not getting any funding and you're like stuck forever with your research, and you've been disgraced and mocked by scientifics, and you're alternative. There's no way you can get any money in that. So if you can't earn any money, you're down. Like who's going to be funding mudflat research? Who's going to be funding TITANS research? Who's going to be funding flat Earth research? Who? Tell me.
Right.
Yeah. And Roger did. I mean, you can download the PDFs on his website. He did 3 DNA tests with 3 different samples, and they all came back positive for humanoid DNA. So, and that's from a reputable laboratory, and you can read the whole thing. And a lot of it's gibberish if you don't know the science. But the point is that even with that, because that's what he said. Well, what do I have to do to get noticed by you people? And so they said, well, you have to do 3 different DNA tests, and they have to be done with X, certain lab or whatever. So he did all that. He jumped through all the hoops, and they still won't return his calls or emails or whatever because they can't.
No, they can't. It's just like this. It's just like they can't defend the globe. They don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because the globe doesn't exist.
Yeah,
they knew it. Because if you're making $200,000 a year, being some astrophysicist, and you're teaching or side, you got like 3 kids, you put them through college, and you find this shit, you're like, oh shit. Okay, wow, this is interesting. And you come to find out, wow, I've been teaching a bunch of bullshit. I had questions about this and the reason why this is this, but I can't say nothing. Okay, what the hell's going on now? Because if I say something, I'm gonna lose my job.
Yeah, one of my patients is a pilot for one of the top airlines, one of the top 3 airlines in the world, and he flies the biggest boats, And so he came in one day, and I started asking him about, hey, do you have to push the stick forward, to compensate for that curve as you're flying around the ball?
Absolutely.
We started getting, and I'm like, what about the gyro? With the artificial horizon, does that start to tilt back? As you and he's like, I saw him last week for the first time in a while, and I asked him. I said, so you see any curve up there? And he's like, I've never seen a curve up there. And he and his buddies, other pilots, started talking about it, but it's all hush hush because if they start to come out, there's a lot of people out there that like their jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, so that's a real risk. It's the rare person that can speak out about you know, anything truly radical but true. And you know,
who's gonna pay them till the day that I die? You know,
Right.
So, their jobs, they probably won't get. Will get some data marking that they're like dangerous and stuff. Nobody's gonna hire them anymore.
yeah, and in today's world, the internet never forgets, right?
Yeah, reputation is the best price of the brand and product. If you have a bad reputation, your brand has bad reputation.
Yeah.
You get fired.
Well, I've been cautious. I mean, you notice I had there's no connection in my channel to Flat Earth, and there may be at some point, but you know, one of my best friends is Alex, the Flat Earth Man.
You know what it is?
That's my best friend.
Wait, I mean, here, check this out. We came to this point. Like, I made a post the other day.
Oh, by the way, I didn't do that. I just want to say one thing. I haven't avoided the topic because I'm concerned about my livelihood. It's more that I just wanted people to look at that without judging it. You know, look at the Titan thing for what it is.
Absolutely.
Before it gets mixed in with the whole Flat Earth thing.
Well, no, it's history. It's history. It's more proof. It's just another piece of the puzzle. Like, people think, you know, when we talk about mud flood, and then at the same time, then we go right to talk about Flat Earth, and they're like, well, oh yeah, you had me. What do you mean? It's a flat plane realm. The Earth doesn't curve downwards, and people are still sleeping in a deep slumber, man. So if you think this place is a spinning ball in outer space, and I'm walking around knowing that it's a flat, motionless plane realm, we're in two different we're parallel universes at the same time.
Yeah.
So we can't even be on the same level. So I don't care if I hurt your feelings or whatever. I came out like my job knows, people know me. I didn't keep it a secret. I was like, fuck you, it's flat. Because to say that I live in a spinning ball in outer space that's flying around the sun 93 million miles away, it's an insult to my intelligence, man. Come on. And then I say, okay, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. So I had to go out there to hit the streets. I made an argument for myself. People know it. I woke a lot of people up doing it. A lot of people, I had a lot of people call me crazy. They still do to the day, but they don't say anything no more. I got a couple of two critics that talk about it, but they don't touch it with a 10-foot pole now because they're starting to make sense now. Okay, that's why I came up with terms like the Earth doesn't curve downwards, or or just to keep saying that, keep hearing it because that's the truth. And I tell people like, hey, Mike, you know why you can't feel the Earth spinning? And they're like, why? Because it's not spinning. Wake the fuck up, man.
Have you seen?
Because we're all too small.
I love talking about Flat Earth, Philip. I mean, I talked about Flat Earth because it is. And you know what? That's going to be the new, it's going to be the new litmus test, Flat Earth, man.
Yeah, let's jump to the Flat Earth and for a couple of minutes. I've seen a video of one guy yesterday who was, touching the subject of the wave and how the waves on the sea can, actually confuse the experiment with his photographing the boat that is, floating in the sea, right? Mm-hmm. So at certain points, we had this experiment in Russia and people trying to prove that the Earth curves with this experiment, and they did actually perform such experiment and showed us that the person with the fire, with the lighter, with the light bulb or whatever, he was like standing up and sitting down in a boat, and when he was sitting down, we couldn't have see the light of, so
right.
we didn't see the light when he was sitting down. When he was standing up, we saw the light. So that was their proof for the Earth curve. And that
right.
guy, yes,
and they're like, thanks, flat earthers, for proving the Earth is round for us.
Yeah. And that guy was like, I proved it. Finally those flat earthers. And so this guy came up yesterday and he said,
that's like the opposite of what happened at the Salton Sea with Jerome, and they had those balloons. They did was the exact opposite. They're like, I see the balloons. They're like, no, we haven't let them up yet. They were gonna float these balloons,
Whatever.
Okay, I see him.
It depends on
and it correlates, man. How much proof do you need to show someone that this is an elephant or was a living being? Okay, how much proof do you need to show someone that it's flat and motionless? It's not that you're not spinning. Okay, how much proof that you need to show someone that you're being lied to about everything for a reason, on purpose?
They want you to do experiments and entertain them with those experiments, so they can be laughing at you and mocking you. So this guy yesterday, he said about the wavelength of the sea. So actually, at a certain point, when we have a slight breeze at the sea, the wavelength turns out to be like extra 4 to 8 feet of height, and we didn't account that before in our experiments. And it said like
swell.
Yeah, that's well. We're supposed to be putting the camera or the binoculars according to that height, extra height, and then filming him with the light, and we had a little wind there, so and that wind could actually be the case when the person is standing or sitting down. So that probably was why we saw that light disappearing. So that was a good one for me. So each and every day we see some details that are getting revealed by different people, and so that's why I liked you, because you had brought us the new account on these mud fossils things, and you really showed yourself as a scientific research, because it looks more scientific than what I saw before, you know.
Right on, man. And the way you presented it, Mike. Dude, I mean, you're doing a wonderful job, dude. I'm like, it don't take me that long. I'm like, okay, this guy, like, wow, like, all right, boom, I'm subscribing. I can't wait till you put out something else. I'm like, I like you already. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna talk to this guy. This guy's on the same wavelength, and that goes to my next question, Philip. Okay, Mike, I know you want to say something. Keep that on, but I'm going to give this to you while you're thinking about that. Is how far deep down this rabbit hole are you?
Me? Which rabbit hole?
Like
every day there's a new one.
Yeah, like this rabbit hole truth. Like, how far deep do you think, you know? I mean, like, how far deep are you?
You mean like my truth or journey? Is that what you mean? Or how deep am I? I don't know. I don't know how deep it goes. You know,
this is a rhetoric question. The question that doesn't need any answer. It's like, you know, how deep is your love, right? How deep is your love, man? How big is?
Can you sing that a little higher?
The question is probably. They say that if the thing gets smoked or trolled by government shields...
You use that word a lot. What does smoke mean? I've never heard that word.
Mocking.
Is that just like mocking?
Mocking, right.
You think mocking.
Okay.
I thought that was like a... I thought it was a new word I didn't know.
His best, man. Phil, yeah, I love Phil, man.
No, that's okay. Sorry. Usually I understand everything you say. I was just like, moke. What's that? That's a new word for me. I've heard of woke, but I don't know about moke.
Yeah. So I mean, if they're trolling you, then you're like on the right path and doing the right thing. So you really on content. Like they trolling.
It's been a surprisingly few number of trolls. I expected a lot more, actually. I've only had to ban in all 4 of the videos and all the time. I've only banned 3 people, and it's not because they were criticizing. It's because they led with insults. If they lead with insults, fuck them. You know, you're not welcome. You know, if you have a problem with what I've done or criticism, you know, and even if it's a strong criticism, I don't care. I can take it.
The comment is the easiest thing. You know, you can easily ban person or something. But I mean, were any video responses on you, video reviews when they did?
No, nobody's done that. I don't think I haven't reached enough people. I mean, the videos. I've got 750 subscribers, and
what about Roger? Anyone bashed Roger?
Well, you know, Roger gets I think he gets criticism all the time, but he's all over the board with all kinds of crazy ideas. So, my stuff is way down to earth compared to some of the stuff Roger talks about. And 900-mile long dragons eating fish in the Sahara that's a tough one for a lot of people to bite. But yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought, but I don't know how much trolling he's got.
I mean,
he hasn't promoted my work at all. It took a lot of people going, hey, you should check out this new guy's stuff before, anything. And I had lots of communication with him, or not lots, but several messages, private messages on Instant Messenger before I even produced the first video, because I had found some stuff and I sent him some copies of pictures. I'm like, what do you think about these? Are these mud fossils? And he's like, yeah, those are definitely mud fossils. But that was before I realized that, and I think all the rocks are mud fossils, or so it's like he could have just answered yes no matter what I sent him, I suppose. Whether there's like some foundational rock, that was there before, I don't know, but so. And then he just finally on this fourth video, he actually went into the comment stream and made some comments, but he hasn't said much.
Let me ask you a question. Are you amazed, man? Like me, like every day, like now, I'm just amazed. Like when like Philip puts up a new video or some new information, or somebody who I have respect for put some a video up, and I find out something interesting, and I look at it and examine it, and I'm like,
I'm in a constant state of amazement and awe about the world that we live in, and discovering more and more about the truth of what this place is and how it's built and what's actually happening, and finding out, oh, well, that thing that I thought was true isn't necessarily true, and oh, hey, there's this other explanation that actually makes a lot of sense, and oh, if we use Occam's razor, it makes way more sense, and I'm very much interested in the toroidal fields and the primer fields and the electromagnetic aspects of this realm that we're in. I think those explanations, not only are they simple and I can wrap my head around them and they make a lot of sense, but they also, when it comes to Occam's razor, they're also reproducible in a laboratory. They're scalable, so it's just like, as they say, as above, so below. It's one of these esoteric teachings, and the Titans, that makes sense. Our mountains are the Earth was alive. So I don't know. To me, it's just one of the things that conspiracy theorists get accused of all the time is that they'll bend over backwards and they'll warp any new information that doesn't fit their model. They'll find a way to warp it so that it fits in with their model, and that's a delusion, and that's what they think that we're all suffering from, because we believe all this crazy shit, But when you start to really study all these different things, and you realize that they just start to dovetail, and then the overall explanation is far simpler, especially when you start to look at NASA and the kind of bullshit that they spit out on a daily basis, and SpaceX, and
it's a damn shame too, man. They're tricking the damn masses like that. It's a damn shame, man. And they're teaching this shit to our kids. And we're supposed to just sit down and let them do it. No, man, let's what's going on. I mean, are we gonna let them cook us with the 5G, or people just sit around and just let them in the communities? Oh, we'll just put that up on the water tower or on the telephone poles, and we'll just put it under the wraps of faster internet. Come on, we don't need that. What are you gonna say? You can charge us more money? Get the hell out of here. It's all BS, man. They're putting this grid system down and people sleep.
Philip, you had a question?
Yeah, about I forgot already. The question was about the mud fossil theory itself. I mean, anybody who was reviewing it, or like in the comments, any decent comments about the review, you said there were nothing at all, but maybe you have some skepticism that you can categorize and point out for the people, which are the weak points which we should like look around. Like, what do you differ? What is the difference between just an object that you can think about as an animal and the real animal? Like all this stuff, like what you figure out through your 4 videos that you made. I mean, how can we see this list of points, like the signs of the fossilized giant and stuff like this, so we won't waste time and make any mistakes?
Well, the thing that I tried to do, and I think I did very well, is I didn't want to just be looking at overall morphology, the shape, the form of the mountain, and say this is an elephant because it's shaped like an elephant. I do in the first video do that, and I let people know that this is just the beginning of what I'm going to be going through, and then I even show people before I get started the list of the different coincidences that I had compiled so far, and that grew as I was doing the series also, and I added new things to the list because I made new discoveries. I just found one yesterday when I was on a walk. I found another rock that kind of fit in with my theory about plasma. But the problem is that I think that most people are just looking at the way something looks, and you've got to look at what is its anatomy, what are the different pieces. You have to have some understanding, and I'm weak on this. I'll be the first to admit it. When it comes to the chemistry and the geology, but I suppose if you've been trained in both of those, especially if you've been trained in geology, you're going to have a hard time seeing it the other way because you've got your blinders on for the mainstream paradigm.
Yep.
So I was really interested when I started coming along, like with the eye. That was how it really began, because I saw some rocks that I didn't quite understand, but I had this idea that it might be trabecular bone, and that I cover that thoroughly in the 4th video. The histology, looking at the tissues of the mountain and the different rock formations that are all around. So I've got one on the eye, one on the ear, and the ear was, mind-blowing, because you've got an ear canal, and it branches off the way an ear canal would branch off. It appears that there's a cochlea in there. You've got an inner chamber. I mean, it's just, there's just too many things stacking up, and it's the same thing with the eye. You've got the infraorbital foramen is a little notch that we have here that a blood vessel and nerve go through. Well, in an elephant, it's here, and it's bigger. And if you zoom in on the eye of Montgo, there's a cave right there where it should be. And these bones, or come together in the eye socket, and they're parallel to the ground like this between 2 bones that have names. I won't go into the names, but those bones meet at a particular place on the inside of the eye socket. And guess what? Inside the cave, there's a friggin' line of 2 kind of slightly overlapping rocks that run that whole length exactly where it should be. That is too friggin' specific, for it to just be a coincidence. Okay, well, one friggin' specific thing does not proof make. You got to stack a bunch of those up, and so.
How many coincidences for at least?
I'm up to 43 now that I found.
We should consider in our future research in our places if we find something like specific. Like
I mean,
how many coincidences would be worth?
The thing is, because of the eye and because of the ear of this mountain, it made it a lot easier for me without having to have mining equipment and special permissions. I mean, you could probably learn a lot if you understood mud fossil theory, you knew the chemistry, you knew that this kind of flesh would most likely, given a certain set of circumstances, turn into this kind of rock with a particular form, and we would expect to find it here. And then you go dig and you find that. That's how it.
At the end of the day, and we'll put the link in the description, because I learned a lot. I probably watched all of Roger's stuff on his work, even though we disagree on what this place is. But I find his work, a lot of his work, plausible, and good, and thorough, and it's fitting and aligning is what we actually see in reality. So that's it's just mind blowing when you actually think about it. I like I said, Philip. Do you have any more questions that you want to ask?
About the paradigm itself. So, what if we accept all this, all this stuff? We accept it and totally, fall into this. We all understand that we're supposed to have some type of paradigm. How all this stuff was, performed in our physical, landscape.
Well, if it is true that the mountain is a Titan, then the question is, are all mountains Titans or just certain ones? And how do we determine which ones are and which ones aren't? Is all rock formerly living being, or is there some rock that was like here that God put here? And we've got these mythical stories of the rock biters and stuff. Maybe they were eating rock, because that was one of the questions you asked me the last time we talked, Philip, is what were they eating? And I said, well, if there were giant trees like, the New Earth lady talks about, then maybe there were giant fruit, or, I don't know. But, Roger doesn't think those were giant trees. He thinks that, Devil's Tower is a giant Achilles tendon. And it may be, who am I to say? But,
Look, Mike, you talk about plasma, man. You right on the dot. There's overwhelming evidence of some type of plasma technology back then they were wheeling around. Okay? So you're trying to tell me,
the flashes. Yeah.
The frequency to make big fruit. Of course they did. Of course they did. Of course they had big seeds and big fruits. They were doing it through frequencies. And that's why they had to put us in school. And they're lying about everything, about our capabilities, about what this place is. And they came up with all these fake sciences, these fake maths, and these fake paradigms. And just like Philip said, this paradigm, it just to continue to so that they can control us. I mean, prove me wrong.
Well, they
Oh, the big
There's
the,
some-
cre- the big creatures were coexisting with who? With smaller
I don't know.
ones. At the same time,
Well, I mean, you've got the what is it, the in the Bible or one of those books, the fallen angels came and mated with the women, the humans, and they gave birth to the Titans, and
The men of
everything hit the fan, and they got really big, and they started terraforming and eating up everything, and eating each other, and it was a bad scene, and that's why God sent the flood, right, or something. I mean, that's.
No. Can you send us the part of the Bible so we can read it after the maybe?
I think it's in the Book of Enoch.
It's in the Book of Enoch. It's all in there. It's the men of the new renown. Absolutely. I actually, I did a video like a long time ago. I did a video. It's on my channel. It's Titans, and I actually put that in there. It's the book of it's like the men of all the old renown. It makes sense. We got a lot of these mountains too that we think, oh, there's natural formations. They're actually tree stumps, man. Huge tree stumps, right? And they're tree stumps from big giant humanoids chopping them down. It's just that. I mean, you see the rings. I mean, it's not. And a lot of this stuff is, they said this place was totally different, and it makes sense. Like that, we are seeing remnants of previous civilizations, previous times, previous experiments, and that's why my mind is so blown when I think about the outside of what this place is and how we got here in the first place. So that's why they give it. I mean, think about the Harry Potters, the Jack and the Beanstalk. I mean, endless possibilities. I mean, what did they got to say? Like quarantine? I mean, we know they're hiding lands. I mean, come on. I mean, how much proof do you need to literally show? That's why they're giving you the globe, because they're hiding land. There's no more land to explore. Have you
guys seen these?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
have you guys seen this scientist that he grew tomatoes, and he grew tomatoes in a pressurized environment, and he just created a room and increased the pressure, and it made gigantic tomatoes, and this one plant produced like tens of thousands of tomatoes. I mean, it was this crazy thing, just simply by increasing the pressure. Because this is one of the things that you hear a lot of times from the people who are saying this Titan thing is BS, is they'll say that they would have crushed under their own weight because of gravity, and that they couldn't have possibly supported themselves, so one theory is that they had, somebody suggested that they might have been silicone based instead of carbon based, and that may have made them more stronger, like these trees would have been made, potentially made of silicone. And another possibility is that it was a pressurized system that allowed them to grow much, much larger and thrive. So
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I want a time machine.
Stuff. And the smaller we get, because the pressure is lower, so we have a lower pressure right now.
Well, if you had more water, you'd have a higher pressure. If it's an enclosed system.
Think about that star fort
water is freezing. Water is freezing.
All the star forts that we've seen had water. So if you look at that star fort that you showed us, how high that star fort was, think about it. So at one time, possibly there was water. So that makes sense. If that water somehow receded, okay, then the elephant is left by, right? It drowned out.
That star fort was 70 meters higher than the top of Mount Go. So it's clearly been covered. Like half of that star fort is covered.
What I'm trying to think about is that ice increases in volume when it's frozen. So water is increasing in volume when it's frozen. Like if you make a glass of water and put it in the freezer, the glass will break. So the ice will go out.
But does it?
And then it's falling off and back to the shore, and you have the decrease of the level of the sea.
Right. So the ice age is. So when there's an ice age, then much higher pressure when it's an ice age.
Of course.
Yeah. That would make sense.
If we're not talking about burning the air, so if we're talking about burning the air and vaporizing, burning the trees and vaporizing the trees into the atmosphere, we're talking about increasing the moisture and increasing the temperatures, decreasing the temperatures, and so on and so forth. And you get ice, and you get snow, and you get ice age. So burning the trees is immediate ice age. That's why I've been talking about the atmospheric, this ideal gas situation, when you have the ice as the like indication of change in the atmospheric pressure. So and there goes the rains, and there goes the mud floods, which are frozen in the frozen mud, and those mammoths that we find still with the fresh meat, well contained in that frozen mud.
That's just so
all
bizarre.
Over Canada and Siberia, right? In Alaska, we have all those mammoths are found. In Canada, they found. In Russia, many places. So it's like people are hunting for the mammoth bones in Russia. They're washing out those. They have these rivers.
Yeah, I saw a video recently, and like you said, the flesh is still edible. I wouldn't want to eat it.
And they hunting. How is this found? Because they hunting for the mammoth bones. Mammoth bones are very expensive, like the elephant bones. Before they're not. They're even more expensive. So, I mean.
Are you talking about the tusks?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is why this business going on, because it's occupying a bunch of people who are living there. So it's like.
That would make sense. Think about big giants come seeing your Titan, like the tusk that was there. They're taking that and use that as material, right? Quarry that out, and and some of these big structures they have. I mean, who knows? I mean,
I was joking about that, but maybe because in the last video I was like, maybe there were. I decided to treat the last one like it was a crime trial, for a murder case.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Like that. That was awesome.
But then I was like, maybe it got bludgeoned by a big Titan poacher.
Why I started about the paradigm? I mean, my paradigm is that we were coexisting for a certain period of time, but at a certain period of time, we were ants. And that's why the ancient name of ancient is that we were ants in this world. We were small ants. And we were actually the sanitars of the forest. We were helping out. Like, we see the dead body, we eat the dead body, like, and stuff like this. So it's like, I mean, this simple information. Local people were doing exactly this. So they were like, helping out the forest, helping out the landscape and stuff. And there go the miners.
Ant land is.
Yeah.
Land is. Ant land is.
Yeah. Miners start harvesting this earth. Start harvesting the trees, cutting down the trees. And then we lost the trees. We lost the atmospheric pressure. We lost everything. All those creatures. We lost the creatures. We lost how many biological classes we are lost in the last 100 years. Classes. I'm not talking the animals. I'm talking about the classes. We're losing classes of animals.
So you're saying about research? Because you're talking about mud flood. Mud flood's taking out everything.
I mean, the biology hurts the most, and this is what we're losing. We're losing the biosphere. They're replacing us with something else. Okay.
Philip, have you ever seen an etch and sketch? What if the mud, right? Now, I just seen a tank, right, that was only under mud for only 50 years, not even 50 years, right?
I saw that picture.
And yeah, exactly. It is mind-blowing. And it fossilized. It looked like rock. It became, hard steel metal, and it went back to its original form. Now, that's mind-blowing, okay? So,
I saw a forest that was not fossilized.
Right. These guys are right, and that's what Wise Up was saying. These guys are.
I was just going to mention him, yeah.
Right, because he shows you how they was using rebar and steel brush, and it's a mind blowing. But here, what I'm saying is, I don't know how I'm going to say this, man, but these. I totally lost track. What I was saying. What was I just talking about?
You were talking about Wise Up and Rebar and.
Yeah, it's about the rebar structure and stuff like that. But it's the tank, the mud, the etching, the etching sketch. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. No, look, what if the mud is the etching sketch? So whoever, like, right, say, okay, we're just gonna guess. Now we'll start all over. Well, we had these things. No, they're crazy. Oh, there's some evil motherfuckers. Oh, we're just gonna. Oh, they look like they're doing good. They may get it. Oh, we'll see what happens. And it's literally. Dude, we're just a game. We're just somebody's amusement, and I mean, it's just
we're like God's kids' play toy.
Who knows? Right? Exactly. So, and the people that I call them the so-called owners of this world that know that we're in some type of prison, so they got control. So they got control of the whole system. So they control everything. They control the monetary system. They control everything. Okay, so they set this a bunch of lies in place and reconstructed this whole paradigm, and to keep you dumbed down and stuck down on this, you know what I mean? So dumbed down where you don't even know what's up and right.
One thing.
Set the earth in motion and everything, and people would just buy everything. I think the experiment is that I made a post. I said, it's a damn shame that we're so smart and so damn dumb at the same time, so stupid at the same time. Like, I think that they want to see how far we can go.
Yeah, can I scream?
You got outer space. Come on, man. We got it. They gave us outer space. That was the big thing for me. I think outer space made me an activist. I was like, oh, they faking space.
Well, this place is in Hungary.
No more spinning on a cartoon ball.
I'm like, yo. Hold on, Philip's showing something right now. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, this place is in Hungary, and it's like in the middle of Europe here. So they found this forest tree, which haven't got petrified. That was found excavated in the mud. And so this is what I was researching, like.
Which hasn't been petrified.
That's what was like my proof that it was not like very long ago. It was like in 19th century. That's why it didn't get petrified.
It might also be that the petrification happens depending on the composition of the mud. So if it's lacking certain things, because otherwise these mammoths should be stone, right?
Looks like they're finding the aquarium like sand here. And this sand and clay is what we found in Moscow that was burying stuff. So that's why I was like trying to. But these are only stumps here, so probably the trees were broken by some.
You guys saw the Wakey Wakey video, right? The one called Geology Revived. Have you seen that one?
No.
Flat Earth Advanced Geology Revived.
Look at the height of the flood. Can you see the height?
Oh man, yeah, that's like, what is that? 8 stories, 8-story building or something.
And how many resets? Look at it. Look at it. Look how many resets? How many layers? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like
I mean, Occam's razor, right? So there's been plenty of resets, right? You got the same architecture that's all over the world. Okay.
Guys, you have to understand, they're like mining here, and they like found this in the bottom of this quarry.
Wow.
So you have to understand that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's even worse, because that shows you that. But it just goes back to what he said also too. That what Mike said. It all depends on what
composition.
We wanted to.
That looks like sand down there. So
looks like Alps are the source of the mud for the Europe. Look, it's close to the Alps, and this is probably where all this stuff came out. The height is like, acceptable to say it's like source or something.
Yeah, liquefaction explains a certain, amount of flooding, mud flow, but it doesn't explain mud just being deposited. You know, if you get like a river, then that could be coming from some kind of a mountain that's just liquefied.
Another thing that I wanted to show you guys is also about this liquefaction thing, because you know I get pretty much annoyed by people trying to.
He doesn't like the word liquefaction, but I'm saying it's all of everything. I'm thinking it's a part of a mud flood.
So,
you know, and
I think it can be brought about naturally or artificially.
Right, exactly. That's my point. It's like, and maybe some buildings did fall down. That's why a lot of them are in trouble. You know what I mean?
The effect of liquefaction makes the buildings float. Look at the video that Conspiracy of Our Us did. All the buildings are floating. So this is the city of Berezniki. It's abandoned in Russia, and some footage shows that easily it has a gas bubble beneath it. So like a little movement in the soil creates all those buildings to be cracked, and just like this, so water comes out from beneath the ground. So liquefaction doesn't.
Funny how those Tartarian buildings are never cracked.
So look at all those
they sure knew how to build.
Yeah, they'll build them like they used to build them, right?
Look at the sinkholes everywhere. So they have all this gas underneath the city. So probably somebody was mining the gas.
Yeah.
And so
like mining, right?
So this is how you find out that it was an ancient mine before. But this city was a miners also. They were mining something else. But when they found out that they have all those sinkholes around, so they just escaped from the city. Everybody was evacuated. And this,
I would get that out of there.
And we know for centuries. We know that their ancient civilizations been digging underground and mining underground for God knows how long. So who knows? Who knows, man? Who knows what's going on, man? We don't know nothing.
I told you that the mud flood, those basement windows appeared due to the sinking of the building of some way or liquefaction. Look at those buildings. They have a little gas bubble underneath, and they cracking just like this. What do you think? Floating? It would be like swept away. We wouldn't see any building at all if it was floating. So crack is just for a little gas bubble underneath, like a little leaning to the side, and you have totally nothing.
This is why most of the really amazing architecture is built on bedrock. The star forts and a lot of these great, the
architecture is all preserved well. We still can use it. So liquefaction is impossible to explain. We only can explain to direct some sand flow from the hill, like pointing to the hill, liquefying everything on the hill, and mud flowing towards the sea.
Yeah, it's like an avalanche of mud, basically.
Yeah.
So an avalanche is only going to cover the area below the mountain. It's not going to cover the whole world. That's your point? I think you're and like we last time we talked, we were talking about the star forts and how they may have been influential, and it may be that maybe all of the Earth is turning to I don't know.
What I see everywhere is architecture is like a book, the only book that we can trust. Architecture is what actually left, and we can trust only what we can see with our eyes. We can
eyes, right?
Yeah, and we can see those things.
Right.
And everywhere we see those spinning waves. At least in Europe and Russia, I see those spinning waves on the facades. Like each and everything has a spinning wave, like a flow or something. And those things from the sea everywhere, like those symbols of Navi world and stuff like this. So I think, and like fountains with some stuff like flowing out of fountains, also everywhere in symbolism. Just check it out. Go.
You're talking about when Martin Liedtke, Flattered British, he's talking about the active charge of the wings, being
active. Yes, absolutely.
Being,
No.
I don't exactly understand that.
Active charge. That's the plasma. It all goes back to plasma, man.
No. I mean, let me show you what I'm talking about.
Goes back to plasma, man. It's mind blowing.
The first time I saw the primer fields, I just thought that's what we live on. You know, when I saw the accretion disk and how the toroidal fields flow and how they spiral in at the center, you know, that what do you call that point where the meet, you know, the meeting point of the two opposite spinning toroids. At that point, the accretion disk comes out, and that, you know, and then you got the plane of inertia. But that accretion disk, I think we live on one of those.
And you see this, guys? Here we see the wave, and like everywhere where I point is the waves.
Right.
Yeah, we have those out here too.
So the waves are everywhere, and the fountains and the waves. Those fountains. Look at this, and the fountains could be used as a weapon also, because we have fountains in every town. So at certain point they could be flooding us with fountain. So this could be a symbol of this weapon. Who knows? And each and every building you have it. It's like not a single building without it.
That type of Tartarian brick. That's all Tartarian, man. That's Tartarian brick. It's all Tartarian.
So watch out for those waves, and you'll see that it's on every building. Like, I don't know. What else we should be looking for?
Mind blowing.
I mean, fountains is really easily to explain also, and the dams. Dams were proven in Californian flooding last year when we had that dam that was, flooding the whole city below. People were evacuating. We saw that. So it's like...
But I mean, okay, dams, star forts I think are a pretty good candidate for, as a prime suspect, because they're literally everywhere. The only places you don't find them are the places where there's evidence of major, sand or mud flows. like the Sahara. There aren't any, they're probably under all that sand. Yes. They're probably there too, but they're everywhere else. So that's one definite potential source. And another potential source would be a plasma event, which, would cause everything to potentially rise. But I have a hard time imagining dams or, the liquefaction of a hill or something like that, creating the kinds of mud that we're seeing in all of these photographs that, tens of thousands of pictures that everyone's going through, and it's the same story over and over again.
Area, but it's not okay for the plain area where you have the valleys and stuff like this. So how can you get all those hills to the valleys? And that's where I started thinking about rivers. So they could dredge the rivers to get all those hills before the town, and then they flush it with the dam flood, and the dam would flood, like all this sand and mud would be pushed towards the city. So this is the only way they can do it, with this dredging technology. And they had the dredging because they totally created all those routes. I saw this terraforming science in all those rivers in Russia. We have all those straight canals for thousands of kilometers long, and so it's like, and they call the rivers, they're like parallel to the lakes and stuff like this. So it's like a very big topic to talk about, because the sea, we also have this Australian island also related to the topic of research. It's called, let me find the name. So it's like the largest surface on Earth with a totally flat surface without any curvature at all. So it's like 10,000 miles in length, and it's close to Australia. It's called the Valley of, let's see, Nalarbor, the valley, the plain of Nalarbor. It's close to Australia, and it looks, let me try to find it in Google. and it has the largest railroad line without any curve. So straight, direct railroad for 500 kilometers.
Right. That's a flat Earth proof.
No, I'm sure they calculated 8 inches per mile.
Nullerburg Plain. Let me show you.
I never seen curved railroads anyway. That's a flat Earth proof. Hey, Mike, they did a number on us, man.
They sure did.
Can you guys see it? What I'm trying to show?
Yes.
So it looks like this. It's like a huge plane. Let me just read you a couple of.
This is on the
is a part of an area. Is part of the area of flat, almost treeless, arid and semi-arid country of southern Australia, located on the Great Australian Bight coast of Great Victoria Desert to its north. So it's not an island; it's just a plain. So it's huge.
So
and it has no curvature at all.
Well, I mean, in a case like that, if then it would make sense that the mud was coming from above, perhaps.
At the wide point, it stretches out to 1.1 thousand kilometers. So it's like 1,100 kilometers.
Oh,
miles.
See what you're saying.
Yes. Its total area is 200,000 square kilometers, which is 77 square miles. 1,000 square miles. 77,000 square miles, guys. It's huge. And it has no curvature at all. And how many of those else do we have in those areas that
That's the original height of the original planes.
Railway line. So the railway was created for the longest straight section of railway in the world, 478 kilometers, which are 297 miles, straight without any turn.
Well, yeah. That's a flat Earth proof. That's a real good one. Wow.
Yeah, 500 miles. What is that in curvature?
Well, that's supposed to be get the curvature. I'll get the curvature calculated right now.
300 miles of a straight railway.
Wait a second.
And
I got a curve calculator. Yeah.
Calculator?
Yeah, how many miles? We say 500 miles? 500 miles?
600 miles is the widest length of the plane.
Well, do we want the refracted hidden? The refracted hidden is, it's like 143,300 feet of drop.
Of missing curvature, right? Exactly. Missing curvature. That's exactly right. See, they don't want us talking about the curvature. That's a big problem for them. That's actually a smoke gun. You can't have it both ways.
That's
Mike.
5 Mount Everests on top of each other.
Mike, they can't have it both ways. They can't say we live on a goddamn ball and there's no curvature that you measure. It's a done deal, Jack. That's an old conversation. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? So, and you know the good thing about this, I have to say, Mike, a lot of people are waking up. They're waking up, man. They're waking up. And it's important for people like you and the work that you're doing and the work that Philip's doing and the work that all of us are doing so that we can let people know what's going on, what to look for, look what we found so that we can, document this and we can pass this information on so other people can pick it up and move, because we have to start thinking for ourselves, because once we start thinking for ourselves, things makes much more sense. You kind of understand what I'm saying?
StopLookThink.com.
Exactly. Hey, man, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, brother, and coming on Connecting the Dots. It was great. I'm a big fan. You guys, his links will be in the description. Is there? Please let us know. Do you have any websites or anything that you're working up that you want to do? Let us know now, or anything that you want to say before we end the show.
Just the YouTube channel. I put up just some different ways if people want to contribute to an eventual DNA test. If I can get the information together for laboratory, so they can, if they want to support what I've done, they can do that, or if they want to specifically donate and earmark the funds for the test, then when I get the information together and do it, that'll make it possible. So
awesome, and get that to me. I'll put them in the description. If you're doing a GoFundMe or whatever, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll put it on Flat Earth News and reports. I'll make it happen because I want people to know who you are, man. You're doing extraordinary work.
You want to see just a quick preview of something I'm going to do real quick? Hold on 1 second.
Hey, Philip, you got any more questions that you would that you'd like to ask now?
No. Well, I had some questions, but I forgot them.
Oh, okay, yeah. But if you have some, if you remember, ask. Yeah, just let me know. I could just edit all of this out, so I'm not worried.
Can't hear you. Hold on. All right. So you guys have seen my stuff, so you know I like coincidences. So this rock I found here doesn't look like much until you start to look at other parts of it, and then what you find, this one rock has about 13 different coincidences in it. I found this in a river bottom here. Wow. And just right off the bat, you can see it kind of looks fleshy. It's got that reddish color with marbling, right? And then when you start to look at it, you've got different lobes.
Yes.
And you've got your arteries and veins.
Arteries and veins, right?
You've got this was the aorta. These are the pulmonary veins. Yeah. And when you look inside, you can actually see the remains of the papillary muscles, which are the muscles that open and close the valves. Wow. I'm really excited about this piece because most of what people are showing on YouTube when it comes to mud fossils is like, oh, here's a digit, and you can tell that there's like that, the nail, the embedding of the nail is there, and it's like, yeah, that looks like a digit. But this is undeniable because here you got the marbling, you've got the lobes, you've got the coronary artery, and you've got the sulcus. This is the coronary sulcus. So the artery comes out and then it lays right there above the fat, next to the meat, and it comes across, and then it enters there. And then you've also got here you've got the investitures of this is where the organ is attached to the pleura, so that everything stays supposed to be in our sac. You can see those there. And I just yesterday got in the mail an endoscopy camera, and I was playing around with it. I was getting in there because it's got chambers in there. I was using chopsticks, and I was getting in. I'm like, holy shit, there are openings in there. So it's got the heart. It's there. It is, man. This one rock.
Oh, and that's the heart of a giant. That's the heart of a giant.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's bigger than it's way bigger than a human heart. Way bigger than what do you call it? Like a cow or a horse or something like that.
Right. It's probably a giant humanoid. It's a lot.
Our heart is roughly the size of our fist, right? This is probably 3 or 4 fists. So whatever it was might have been 3 or 4 times the size of a human.
Nice. Wow.
Human, anyway. Yeah, so that's fun. I'm gonna do something similar to like what I did with the elephant and do some 3D anatomy so people can see what the different parts are and get in there with the camera from the inside and
I can't wait, man. That's amazing, man. That's amazing.
and then I found 2 more rocks that are the same shape and actually, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Oh, wow.
Spain is a pretty special place when it comes to biology or or geology. So again, here's another one, right? There's your
right there.
open,
Look at that.
and then
Look
you
at
got the investiture. And when I put this one alongside, it's smaller, but it's the exact same shapes, and you can make out the lobes on this one.
When you spray water, you get a water bottle, you spray it, you can actually see it even better too.
Yeah. And the other one really looks like flesh when you spray it. And then this one is a little harder to tell, but it's the same shape. So when you line all three of them up next to each other, you can tell that they're hearts. That's my next.
It looks like lime. It looks like limestone. It looks like limestone.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. I suppose it is. That's where I'd love to have more knowledge about geology and know how to start to identify different kinds of rock and get a better idea of what they're made of. But so I need to do some study on that before I make the video.
Wow, man. Amazing. Philip, you have any more questions you'd like to ask?
Oh, probably not.
Right now?
It's late. What time is it there, Philip? It's like you're ahead of me.
About 0.49 p.m.
So it's like 12, so it's midnight over there.
Oh, you're just an hour.
It's 1 o'clock. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning over there.
You're an hour ahead of me. Okay, I thought you were way more than that.
I just wanted to, make a short video on those remarks that we got on Mudflood. So if you want to stick around, I can send you a link, guys. We can talk for
I gotta go. I have to cook dinner right now, so
okay.
I gotta go. Yeah, I'm already past my limit right now. So, and you know what I mean. So I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to go sleep in the doghouse tonight or anything like that. You know what I mean?
I'll record it. So
let's get up tomorrow. Man. Let's get up tomorrow. Let's continue it tomorrow, and if you want to. Definitely me and you. If you're not doing anything, you're more welcome to join us on Phil's channel tomorrow.
It depends on what time. Drop me a line if I've got the time. I will. Yeah, nice talking to you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hey, man, we'll have you back sometime. Keep up the great work.